Welcome inside episode 518 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains on our final show before the NHL trade deadline. So we're going to take a deep dive into what some potential trades could be for the Ottawa Senators.
And Ross, it's a jam-packed weekend for the Senators franchise as the Sens go up against Philadelphia Flyers in tonight's game. Then I'll be boots on the ground scouting in Montreal up against the Habs and the Belleville Senators. A rare Friday, Saturday, and Sunday weekend. So get ready for Sens hockey.
5 games in the organization. We better get previewing. Plus, we've also got a SensCentral Citizen. Josh Power joins us from West Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Friday, March 18th. And Pilsy, this might be the last show discussing the Senators as we know them.
Yes, hopefully the Senators as we know them. We're not discussing that same team because we had a bit of a sad episode in yesterday's episode, and the postcast was not exactly, the vibes weren't at an all-time high as they usually are. So we're hoping Pierre Dorion's working the phones, doing a lot of calls, checking in on things this weekend because there are a lot of contracts that need to be moved out. Maybe, hopefully, some sort of hockey deal that can bring some NHL talent in can be made. That's usually off-season stuff, but with the trade deadline and some big trades already happening, the floodgates are open, and GMs are realizing that they need to move fast if they want to get their targets here.
During the show yesterday, we learned that Thomas Chabot was in all likelihood done for the regular season, that Jake Sanderson's NHL debut could be pushed back even further based on his injury. With those guys pending, if at all, in the lineup this year, does that change how you would attack the deadline? Are you more likely to hang on to a Mete, a Zaitsev if you have to, or a Josh Brown, that sort of talent, just to have an NHL decor?
I mean, you use the word talent pretty generously there, Ross, but at neither option really changes too much, right? Like, those guys don't move the needle too much. If you're going to trade them, best case scenario, you get a 5th round pick, right? For Josh Brown and Mete, best case scenario, you're looking at a 5th round pick, more likely a 6th round pick. So that's just moving money out to get some assets in return just for the sake of doing that. So if the Sens decide, hey, look, we're without Chabot, doesn't look like Sanderson's going to be ready in time, or we're not going to rush him by any means. Sure, maybe we just keep Mete and Josh Brown and let their contracts slide out, and we don't get too stressed about missing out on a 6th round pick option here. So I think if that's the route they got to go, that's fine. And I don't see Zaitsev being done in season. I don't see a team desperate for Zaitsev's contract or desperate to acquire picks at the deadline unless they've got a bigger move in mind. So really, the offseason is probably where Zaitsev is going to happen if it does.
The reason why I forced Nikita Zaitsev's name onto the potential trade board that we're going to pull up, we have 4 potential trades for the Ottawa Senators. I would say 2, maybe 3 are likely, and then I just wanted to add Nikita Zaitsev to get him off this team. But you mentioned it wouldn't be the other teams that are desperate to get him, but it's how desperate are the Ottawa Senators to not pay that signing bonus that he's due on July 1st. Again, that could be a draft trade then. Yep. And it's not like it's make or break with where the Senators are at in the standings. Hell, if you're of the side where at this point, just embrace the tank, keep losing, he could be one of your warriors.
He's a key piece.
Your key pieces going in. If that's the type of finish you expect and hope the Senators to have, which I don't think any fan really wants. You don't want to watch your team trot out there and lay an egg on home ice multiple times with as full of a crowd now as they're getting. So I just forced his way on here, kind of give an idea of what it would cost to get out from under the last 2 years of his contract. But the way this is shaking out on the back end, and we know that's the biggest problem with this team, is the back end and how it needs to be rebuilt in the future. But right now, you're not even going to get a good look, no matter what, without Shabbat, without Sanderson going forward. So it almost feels like a fool's errand. But I also wanted to make sure that JBD and Lassie Thompson stay in Belleville. That should be the number one objective here, is don't force players up from Belleville just for the sake of doing so. They need to go on a run. But speaking of that, before we get to the trades, and we will preview all this, but bit of a surprise move. Parker Kelly resent to Belleville after what I thought was a pretty good string of performances.
And Ross, not only that just based off his skill, he shouldn't be the guy sent down, but also he was the extra body. So now are the Sens basically foreshadowing that, hey, we don't plan on moving any roster players out in the near future? Like, what is going on with this Parker Kelly transaction? I don't understand.
I don't know either. I can confirm he will be in Belleville's lineup tonight, so we'll see what's next. I'm sure it's a big boost for them. You mentioned off the top, 3 games in 3 days. You need your best soldiers to help out, but he could have helped out against Philly. Those are always chippy games, and we know Scott Lawton and Travis Konechny like to get going from time to time, and Brady's had his run-ins with Scott Lawton specifically. So you would think that the more shift disturbing you can get, the better, and who better than the shift disturber himself to get into the mix. So no Parker Kelly for Ottawa, and we'll let you know who's in the lineup based on yesterday's practice lines, because there is no morning skate today. They might think that more guys will get injured as the list just keeps growing and growing. But hopefully Drake Batherson can find his way into the lineup sooner rather than later. We did tell you at the end of yesterday's show, we know who the starting goalies are this weekend. It's Anton Forsberg on Friday and Philip Gustafsson on Saturday. But before we get to those previews and our SensCentral Citizen, we're going to pull up on YouTube here the trades that us co-AGMs made here as for the Ottawa Senators. And if you want to start, let's do the two in the middle here first with the draft picks. For those who are just listening, these are more likely the types of moves you're going to see going in. And why did you target in both of these, Pills? I'll let you read off what they are too, but 2023 draft picks coming back to Ottawa.
From what it sounds like, the 2023 draft is going to be a much deeper draft than this upcoming draft. And I think if you're the Ottawa Senators, you're going to try to hit some home runs in that year. Just knowing how well this team does in the deeper rounds. We talked about Drake Batherson's, Mark Stone's, Ryan Dzingels. This team has been able to hit on a bunch of players in the rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. So if you're going to aim for that and you know that's the best value you're going to get, why not aim for a deeper draft? So that's why we went with 2023 picks. And the first one here, Zack Sanford, he's a guy, he's not really happy playing here. He's not a part of this team's long-term future. So he's going to go to a contender. And there's not a lot of contenders with cap space. So we targeted the New York Rangers as one of those teams. And we have them giving Ottawa a 4th-round pick in return. So Zack Sanford to the New York Rangers for a 4th-round pick in the 2023 draft.
So this obviously helps the Rangers in top 9, probably a third-line scoring role, and it helps because we just spoke to John Chick a couple weeks ago, and that's where he was saying, like, they just need some more depth, a guy who can potentially step up and score a big goal at a big time. Zack Sanford can do that. He scored in Game 7 of the 2019 Stanley Cup Final. He's got the ring, and I think the Rangers would like to have that. We know that a part of their MO last offseason was adding some more muscle. Now, we've seen him chuck the mitts off in a hurry a few times, and the results are getting better and better, including a takedown of Johnny Tate.
And he's a guy that pisses teams off too, which the Rangers want to add to that as well.
Yeah, I like that. And another aspect of this trade is the Rangers have so much cap space, probably the most among any contending team right now. So even though it's only $2 million, the Senators wouldn't have to grab any of that like they would maybe in a Michael Del Zotto trade, which we haven't even bothered with here. If you can, you do. If you can't, then, I mean, he maybe goes and wins AHL playoff MVP. Who knows with the way he's putting up points down there. But that is, I think, probably the most realistic trade. Now, we also are sending Josh Brown to Nashville here. We know that teams like Nashville covet big defensemen. Hell, they're playing Ben Harper every night. I didn't say tough defenseman. I said big defenseman. And that they have that.
And they went for Goody last season too, right?
They went for good Branson last season. They've got Mark Borowiecki in the fold there. I mean, they've got their weapons too back there in Dante Fabro and in Roman Josi. So it's not like they're just a bunch of bruisers, but I think he could be a good depth add. And for only a 6th round pick coming the other way, I think it's a reasonable return for Josh Brown, a guy making 1.1 on an expiring contract. So I like that as a pretty realistic landing spot and a realistic move as well.
Yeah, I think those two moves, they make sense. Neither team is really up in arms about how the trades are going. So I think those two are likely deals, yeah.
Now let's get into the intriguing trade, not
crazy.
the unrealistic one. We'll save that for the end here. But Ottawa sends Nick Paul and a 3rd round pick in this year's draft. Hell, they're sending Boston their own 3rd rounder back that Ottawa got for Mike Riley last year. So Nick Paul and a 3rd to Boston in exchange for Jake DeBrusk. Why do you think this makes sense?
Well, we've heard rumors all over the league. Multiple different insiders have said that things just aren't working out with Jake DeBrusk and Boston in trying to negotiate a new deal. Does that sound familiar? Well, things aren't really working out with Nick Paul and the Ottawa Senators to try to negotiate a new deal. So I feel like anytime you got two teams that have two players that are in that situation, oftentimes they just say, hey, do you want to swap problems and see if we can fix each other's issues here? And I think Jake DeBrusk has a little bit more value than Nick Paul does. So I think sending a 3rd round pick, Boston's own pick, back to them makes sense. And Nick Paul is a guy who, ever since we unfortunately had to start thinking of him in other uniforms, I've always pictured him in a Boston Bruins uniform. I think he could do a lot of good things there.
Yeah, he certainly could. Jake DeBrusk, a bit more of a goal scorer. He hit 27 goals in his 2nd year in the league. He's a year younger than Nick Paul as well. So you still have him as an RFA, whereas Nick Paul is unrestricted this year. So having that control is one thing. He's making 4.8 in real money this year, which means that you would have to qualify him at about 4.9. So that next contract isn't going to be cheap. And it's a guy whose numbers have plateaued a little bit. Last year was a big off year for him, only 5 goals and 14 points in 41 games. But then I look and like Nick Paul's career high in points is 20. So there has to be some juggling here in just how valuable Nick Paul is. But I do think there is a level of upside with Jake DeBrusk in a right situation, like alongside Tim Stützle, which is where I would love to see him if he does come to Ottawa, him play there. But I also hesitate because why would they send a top 9 talent? I feel like if they would have traded him, I know he's asked for one, it would have been earlier on. Now they know they're making the playoffs. Again, it seems like a bit of a summer trade there.
Yeah, and that's fair, but you're getting a player that's going to be a great playoff player in Nick Paul. So you're not losing completely a guy off your roster, and you're getting a sweetener. You're getting a 3rd round pick in there, and you want to give a chance to entice Nick Paul to re-sign there. Because Nick Paul, his next deal, he's going to be looking for term. He's had bouncing up and down between Belleville and Ottawa. He just wants some term, one-way deal so that he doesn't have to worry about these business deals anymore. Because I think from what DJ Smith says, it's really tolling on Nick Paul, the fact that he doesn't have a contract. He doesn't know where he's going. So I think he would love to go to a stable, steady franchise and just say, all right, I'll sign here and we'll make it work.
Do you think $3 million is fair for him? That sounds like from Elliot Friedman's hit on Volume of Thought today, that's what he wants on an AAV.
I think it's fair because I still think he has some room to grow. And I don't think the player he is right now is who you're going to get 2 years later. And Nick Paul does it all. If no matter where you need him, you can plug him in. So I think that's fair. That would be the max I would go if I was the Ottawa Senators. But teams with bigger pockets and that aren't too worried about spending real cash, they probably wouldn't mind it.
So those were 3 more realistic trades. We're 3 days away from the NHL trade deadline. I also put Zaitsev, a 2nd and a 3rd, a 2nd from 2023 and a 3rd from 2022 in exchange for Cam Dineen. I just looked up any sort of top 6, top 7 defenseman in the NHL just because you need somebody to play and not name Lassie Thompson or JBD. He actually has pretty unreal numbers in the AHL, 19 points in 21 games down there, but he would be a guy who you'd want NHL minutes from just the rest of the year on an expiring contract. I think that's more unlikely, but we can dream of the day that Nikita Zaitsev or Cody Ceci, for that matter, are not on the Sens depth chart, because it's been since like 2014 when Ceci made his debut that's been a realistic a reality for the Ottawa Senators. So those are some potential trades. Let us know what you think. Subscribe on YouTube. You can comment there what you think, or you can find us on social media at SensCentral on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. And if you're looking for maybe an old episode, if you want to get more Locked On Senators, one of our favorite playlists is our SensCentral Citizen playlist, where we have each and every one of you on the show ask how you became a Sens fan, what your thoughts are on the current team, and your favorite memories. So we do have such a wide variety. Pelzy, like some people from Ottawa, diehard fans, and then people like Josh Power, who just stumbled upon their love by liking the logo.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear people's origin stories, because everybody's is so different. Some are just geographically based, and others are people like me that were brought into the team later, or people in different countries or continents that got into the game of hockey and said, you know what? I love these losers, these Ottawa Senators. These are going to be my guys.
Before we bring Josh on, let's tell you a word from our friends at Built Bar. Have you tried Built Bar Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. Yeah, you heard that right. Protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy. They're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat. And they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with incredible flavors. Yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, or banana cream pie. They are absolutely delicious. All Built Bars covered in 100% real chocolate. They're low calorie, high protein. You can replace your candy bars with these and feel good about snacking on a Built Bar. So go to Built.com and scroll down to the macros chart. You'll be blown away by the high protein, low cal, high fiber, low carb that makes a Built Bar so special. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first and then figure out how to make it healthy. I don't know how. They pull it off every single time. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your next order at Built.com. All right, here he is. This week's SensCentral Citizen. We're going across the pond to chat with Josh Power. All right, we're now joined by this week's SensCentral Citizen. We're going back across the pond to the hive of Sens Army in the UK, Yorkshire, to be exact. We welcome on Josh Power. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshP1407. Welcome to the show, pal. How you doing today?
Good evening, lads. How are you? I'm good. I'm very good.
So we're recording this right before the Sens host Columbus on Wednesday. We're going to put this out on Thursday. So I'm assuming 7:30 Eastern start. It's got to be near midnight to you. How do you stay up? What's your way of keeping track of the Sens on a day-to-day basis?
Well, you know, I'll give you guys the bump. It's the podcast. Let's face it. You guys publish normally just around tea time. So I'm taking the dog for a walk. I get my daily update, and then you know what? They make it difficult to stay up. You know, when you're going in the end of the second period, it's normally about 1 a.m. and you're thinking, right, okay, am I risking this? Am I staying up till 2, 3 in the morning? What are they going to do? And you know, we all know how this season goes. They tend to let you down in the third period, don't they?
Yeah, no kidding. And Josh, I think our new slogan should be Locked On Senators Podcast, your team every tea time.
Yes.
For all the
absolutely.
fans across the pond, your team every tea time. Love that. Now, you said you got to decide whether you're going to watch the game or not, whether you're going to commit or not. Do you do that based on matchups? Like if you're like, all right, the Sens are probably going to get destroyed in this game. You know what? Maybe I'll get a good sleep tonight. Or I mean, it wouldn't have been the case, but you see 2 Arizona games on the matchup and you're like, I'm staying up for these big wins, and then you get disappointed. How does that preparation go for your decision?
I think I'm a bit of a sadist. You always think we're going to pull it off. We're going to do it this time. We're going to do it this time. And it's that second intermission. That's where I think, right, am I calling this one a night, or am I going to keep going? I've spoke to a couple of the boys, Kerem and Richard. I think they go with awesome. 2-0 deficit. If we're down by 2, they'll call it quits. And yeah, maybe I should start doing the same.
Well, you can just look for the Sens this year. If they're winning after 2 periods, you're all set. And if they're losing, They have 1 win in 28 games, 18 wins in 20 games when they're winning after 2. So typically not much change
Go with
after
the stats
second
there,
period. Yeah, you got to go heavy analytics on that one. Now, you said you're West Yorkshire. So if I am a British scholar, I would tell you that is near the middle. What would you say? North-ish, just north of Leeds? Am I right with that?
Well, yeah. West Yorkshire, sort of centered around Leeds and Wakefield. Yeah, the 2 cities. We're very much classed as Northern England.
Okay.
Proud of it as well.
Well, I don't see any connections to the Ottawa Senators around there. So what made you be drawn in to follow the Ottawa Senators of all NHL teams?
So it was the COVID break, and we were all sat at home, nothing to do. My partner, Emma, she says that, she used to watch the hockey, and have they stopped over there? So we thought we'd have a look, and we see the return to play. So I think, all right then. She's been a Red Wings fan for years and years. So we didn't look who was playing return to play, because we assumed it went everybody. So I need to pick a team. We got all the pictures up, and I thought, I'm not going to pick the winner. I don't want to pick the best team. I want some sort of random in it. And so I looked at all the logos, and I thought, well, that's a different logo, isn't it? Little Roman. What's that got to do with North America? So I went for the Senators. And then I did my research, and I realized what I'd bought myself into.
Hey, you gotta love the underdogs, right? Like, because now, Josh, you're at a point where when the Senators are good and they are on the road to unparalleled success, as we've been told, you can say, you know what, I'm not some bandwagon fan. I've been here since the 2022 season when we were absolute trash.
Well,
so
he said he joined.
You can earn it all, right?
If he started following in 2020, like usually you see us fans who have been around for a long time who have seen good teams. So we're holding on to the hope of that they can get back to when they made the playoffs, I believe 13 out of 14 seasons from like 1997 all the way through into the 2010s. But no, Josh jumped on when their number 1 center was Jean-Gabriel Pageau. Like you're looking at here, or was he already traded? And if that's the case, then we're looking at Chris Tierney potentially leading the charge here. So man, you got to get a little respect for that. I absolutely love that. And picking it from the logo, just one extra reason why you knew the Sens needed to rebrand. If they had kept that 3D logo, it wouldn't have caught your eye at all.
No. You know what? It was when I started getting into the community, and I think that's what kept me on. You know, my son, he wanted to get into it as well. He walked in when we were watching the game, and he just stared at the screen and went, "What is this?
Nice.
It's not a thing over here. Hockey's not a thing over here." And he saw it, and I was like, "Oh, it's hockey." He's like, "Can I watch it?" Like, knock yourself out, kid.
Grow in the game. Love it.
Next day, honestly, he just watched back-to-back games on YouTube. He decided what he liked Flyers. He fell in love with Giroux, which kind of makes my heart's going. He's going to get heartbroken in the next few days. I started looking into the community and the team and all the Twitter, and I followed the subreddit, and you know what, you can't beat that team and the people around it. It's such a good market, and I started to realize how much they like my football soccer team. The parallels were just there, and I was like, you know what, this is my team, I'm in. And then the first game was that Toronto game, the opening game of last season, so I'm like, oh, I've got a winner here. And then the rest of it happened.
What's your football team?
Team called Bradford City. The
bottom of the table?
Lovable underdogs.
Bottom of the 4th league, pretty much.
Oh.
You know what? You can see the parallels straight away, can't you?
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's crazy. Well, I'm glad you found a team that suits you, because you can stick with it a whole bunch better. And you were telling us before we started recording that you actually bumped into a fellow Senators fan and a fellow SensCentral citizen when you're at a game over there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'd booked tickets to take my friends to the game. I was going to ask him to be best man while we're there. I'd never been to a hockey game. I thought, this has become quite a big part of my life. I want to get him introduced, see what he thinks. He bailed last minute. He had to go to Dublin for something else, so I left him. I thought, you know what else am I doing? I'll go on. So I put my jersey on, drove down to Sheffield, which is our local sort of they call it Premier League team, sort of ECHL level. I was just walking down the concourse, and I just heard someone out of nowhere just shout, "Senators, Senators!" So I'm starting to look around, like there's no one else wearing a jersey, and it was Richard, the UK senator, wearing a cap, and it was just straight away from there, and then we started chatting, and that's when I realized, like, wait, you're the guy who was supposed to go to Seattle. He was going to go to the Seattle Kraken game, wasn't he? Before Christmas.
He ended up going, didn't he? Yeah, he went to the city and had to walk around the outside of the rink. I felt so bad for him. Absolutely
gutted for him. But yeah, we just spent the intermissions just chatting away, talking Sens. It was, let's say, safe to say, the first time I've ever talked hockey face to face with another Senators fan. It was pretty unique.
Hope you're enjoying our chat with Josh Power, our SensCentral Citizen, for this week. But we got to quickly interrupt this conversation with a message from our friends over at BetOnline.net. Guys, it's March. March Madness is here, and make sure you get in on the madness at BetOnline.net. Do you have a sneaky suspicion about a big upset that's going to happen? Brackets being busted all over the place, and you say, hey, this 16 seed looking pretty good. Well, why not put your money where your mouth is and cash in on that feeling at betonline.net? It's not only college hoops, though. They got, of course, they got NHL hockey. They got NBA. They got boxing. They got UFC. Baseball is back. Thank goodness. We're not losing baseball. So head to the website today, or if you've got boots on the ground scouting and you're at the game and want to live bet them, like I'm going to be doing when the Sens inevitably head down 1-0 to start the game in Montreal. I'm going to live bet them right on my phone at betonline.net. Guys, it's the trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's betonline.net, where the game starts. And now, back to our conversation with Josh Power. I'm looking at the jerseys right now, the Sheffield Steelers. Do I have that right? The bright highlighter orange. Man, this looks like it could be a good time. How is the hockey? Now that you've got a taste of NHL hockey, how does the hockey compare? What are some things you notice that are a little different?
You know what? I'll give it its dues. It's passionate. It's so passionate. In fact, the Challenge Cup, which is sort of like secondary competition runs alongside the league. Their finals currently going on now. The Belfast Giants versus the Cardiff Devils. And it, you know what? It was 2-0 Cardiff, and they've just started the third period. And it was 2-2. So I don't know how it's going to finish, but there's it's game 7. There's no series. It's just one game. So it's a brilliant atmosphere there. That's the best thing I can say about it. And it's the one thing I think NHL needs. The atmosphere. Yep. It just isn't the same, is it?
No.
And just quickly, ironically, we have had a former Cardiff Devil player on this podcast, Paul Bissonnette, the one English guy who's played over there we've had on the podcast.
100%. That's hilarious. I'm just looking at their roster too. Jordan Eberle's cousin plays for the Sheffield
nice
Steelers. So
good player.
Lots of Canadian boys on this team too. A couple Manitobans, a couple of Albertans as well. But that's awesome that you get some local hockey to watch. Are you planning on coming over the seas whenever kind of the world gets back more to normal? Maybe next season or the year after to come see the Sens?
Absolutely love to. I was over in Canada about 20 years ago when I was a kid on a family holiday, and I don't know why they didn't take me to a game then. You know what? I'm kicking my dad now for not doing it while we're over there. I want to come back.
Did you have a chance to go to Ottawa when you were here, or what parts did you visit? I'm assuming probably Niagara Falls. I feel like that's a classic.
It was a classic. Yeah, no, but we went to go stay with a family friend who was in the RAF, staying in Ottawa. So we were in Ottawa for a week. Love the city. And then we did all the tourist stuff. We did Niagara. We did Leafs Land, and then we went up into the lakes for a week. So it was an amazing holiday.
Awesome. Did that experience in Ottawa help push you to cheer for them because you had that connection? You'd been to the city.
Well, that's it. I didn't know when I picked the logo, but when I saw the name,
it's just a bonus.
Like, you know what?
That's awesome.
It meant to be, innit? It was meant to be. So
that's amazing. So you watch pretty much every game by the sounds of it, at least parts of it. What are your thoughts here as we go into the trade deadline? Are you hoping to see a few moves, or are you kind of consistent where you wait until the summer to get into that?
I'm worried, I'm worried. Looking at the roster, looking who we've got to sign, or who we don't. Let's rephrase that. Who we don't want to sign, because lots of them UFAs we want gone. But who's going to fill the spots? And everyone's talking about Nick Paul. Who's going to replace him?
Yeah.
Unless they're just having a big battle, negotiating back and forth, and we're being as tight as we expect the team to be. What's going to happen? Because you boys said it enough times. You lose Nick Paul, and then you're going to spend the off season trying to sign Nick Paul.
Yep, that's the way it goes. Now let's get to some positivity at least. We like to keep it positive on the show. So, what about the Sens team catches your eye this year? Like, who are the guys that get you real fired up?
Parker Kelly, I'm absolutely loving this guy.
Oh, nice.
Out of nowhere, what a boy, right? And he's that mold. Following lower league English football, they're the players that you want. The ones who they may not be able to deke everyone. They might not pull off blinders, but they are going to fight and they're going to bleed for that jersey. And what a player! He's got potential to be maybe Nick Paul 2.0 in 2 or 3 years once he's finished developing. You can't go wrong with Formanton either. Again, I love the rags to riches story. The guys who have grinded and worked their way up, and put him on a breakaway, and he might put a few of them away every now and again.
Whew. No question. I like that a lot. That tells you what kind of guy Josh is, Pilsy? He's not going with the fancy danglers like Stützle or the kid with the rocket in Norris, or even Batherson and his creativity. No, he goes right down to Parker Kelly, who's got to be in the top 15 or top 20 players in the league in hits per 60 minutes of ice time. That guy absolutely smashes everything and anything. What about guys who haven't made the team yet? I'm sure that you hear some names, Jake Sanderson and Ridley Gregg. Is there anyone who's up and coming who you can't wait to see get to the next level?
You know what? There's two. There's the Riddler. I think he probably needs another year. Put him in the AHL for a year just to mature him a bit more. But then Tyler Cleven, like you've got to hope this guy keeps tracking the way he does, because again, Sanderson, game changer, right? He's going to be incredible. But who you going to rely on more? You need your bottom guys. They're the ones that are going to get you the end results. Sanderson, Jimmy, all those guys. They'll get you the goals, but it's any other guys at the back who are going to hold the fort down when you need them to. They're the ones I like.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like your style, Josh. I can tell what type of player you're like. And I have a feeling you might like Tyler Boucher as he's rising through the ranks too, just based off of some of the other guys you like. Have you had a chance to follow along with that Liam's Martian about the Sens top number 10 pick recently?
I was going to say, that goal he just tweeted out an hour or so ago.
And how about, of course, after just sticking it to the other team, just
away,
can't even finish his celly. Like, I got to get in there and cause some shit first. Classic.
Yeah, man. It might not pan out, but he's exciting to watching it. He's going to keep you watching.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite memory of watching the Ottawa Senators? Is there a game or a moment that sticks out in the short time that you've been locked in every night?
It was 5-1.
It was 5-1.
Wow, what a beauty game. I didn't sleep that night.
I was going to say, though, because you said it's a 2-goal rule. They were down 5-2 going into the third period there, but you held on?
That's not my rule. That's the other boys' rule.
He did say that.
He did. Yeah. I was trying to walk him into that corner. I like that. He gets right out. Right
and
up.
A game going to extra time, that's extra late for you. Like, that's when you got it. Like, those must be the most disheartening ones when you're like, I stuck through it all and they let in a crap goal in overtime. God.
Yeah.
Well, what's worse, he hasn't experienced playoff overtime. Like,
God.
When it's full 20-minute periods, you get to the second one. It's like 2:00 in the morning over here.
Yeah.
So you've got the sun coming up. The Roosters are cracking up.
Time for bangers and mash at that point.
Yeah. No question. So you had that one experience where you ran into Richard over at a hockey game. Any other where you either see a hat or jersey walking around, or it really is just a select few and they all happen to be Ottawa Senators fans?
It's a select few, and they're all Sens fans.
It's crazy. There's so many.
I saw one fella in the supermarket. It was just wearing just an NHL crest t-shirt, and I thought it was playoff time, right? So I think it was the Habs Leafs had just played the night before that, the first game when it started turning, and so I thought I never get to talk hockey. So I said to him, "Oh, did you?" I just stopped him in the supermarket. I said, "Did you watch the game last night?" And he goes, "What game?" I said, "The hockey game." The hockey game. And he went, "What hockey game?" I said, "The Leafs." You're wearing an NHL t-shirt, and he went, "Oh, I don't know what this means." That sums up the UK hockey for you. It's just
you'd be a Leafs fan then. That sounds about right.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Bills, you got a last one?
Yeah. Final question for me. Look, we talked about the trade deadline coming up. What's going to happen in this offseason that's going to really change your opinion on the direction of this team? Like if you had number one on your priority list for the offseason, whether it's draft, free agency, trade, what's the most important thing for you for this team?
Get Timmy a second line winger.
Yeah.
He needs someone. And I don't necessarily think we should be going for another high skill player. We're not going to get him, but Giroux, you want that.
Yeah. Then your son could be a Sens fan with you.
Well, there we go. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, and that's not just for that.
Yeah.
But someone to help, just take him a bit of pressure off him, because he's done great on his face-offs. He's getting better, but that's not what he excels at. So let's get him someone to let him do what he does best.
I like that. You have any names in mind, or you just in general like a top 6 young up and coming guy as well?
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be up and it's necessarily too young.
Right. Yeah, you said Giroux. It makes sense. I always have in mind like a Line comes to mind playing against Ottawa this past night, and but yeah, if it's a veteran guy too, I'd be happy with that. It's too bad they missed out on Toffoli. I mean, you said it was 5-1. You get Dadonov for that, but he seemed like a consolation prize. Like a Toffoli, would you be happy if it's that level of player who comes in this offseason?
Couple of years, absolutely. You want him so he matures nicely. When Timmy's brought up, then look at the depth we've got. At some point someone's gonna come good right on that list.
Yeah.
Or we can trade it for someone a proper up and coming superstar to play alongside him. But yeah, Toffoli, yeah, you'd be happy with it, wouldn't you?
100%.
Yeah, that, and then one other thing: sign one player before the contract's up, just to prove that they actually mean what they're doing. Don't wait until the last minute. Just get someone signed early.
That is well said. That's well said, Josh. Everyone, go follow Josh at JoshP1407. Final question for me: do you have any questions for us? Whether it's about Ottawa, the Senators, anything? If you have one, fire away.
Great question, Ross.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, two-parter.
Oh.
Does everyone just talk about hockey non-stop in Canada? Because I assume everyone does.
Pretty much.
And
I mean, Ross is in a hockey city, so Winnipeg, definitely that's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Part 2.
And what is the local hockey scene like? Let's say you're in your town, not like metropolitan area, your town.
Yep.
Does that entire team go and follow the entire town, follow that local team?
Well, I can answer this one because I'm in a smaller town. It's called Collingwood, Ontario, and they've got a hockey team. I'm just looking up what level they play. I haven't had a chance to see them play with COVID going on, really. So it's a junior A club, and it's actually an arena right beside the bar I work at. And when there is games on, it gets pretty busy around there. So the local teams, they may not have like a solid following, but there's like regular fans that love it. Like it's a great entertainment night out, good excuse to meet up with buddies and have some beers. So definitely once I get a chance to, I'm checking out the Collingwood Blues.
Yeah, that's cool. Junior A is sweet. And then if you go one step above the level that Tyler Boucher plays at, the OHL, that's like the elite 16 to 20-year-old. So that's major junior, and then junior A is like the one level below that. But junior A or OHL is pretty cool because you get those high draft picks who come back. So like Tyler Boucher, like Mason McTavish, even Jason Spezza. I remember when I was growing up in Ottawa, Jason Spezza was drafted 2nd overall by Ottawa, but then he wasn't quite ready, and Ottawa had an older team and a defensive-minded coach who didn't want to put him in right away. So he was sent back to the minors, junior. So then when he comes to town, everybody in town's like, oh, Spezza's in town, or
Yeah.
Sidney Crosby came to Gatineau, and you're
That
like,
was a big
okay,
one.
everyone circles that on the calendar and they make sure to go. So yeah, there's definitely a great appetite for junior hockey, and especially I feel like the smaller the town, the more appetite, because those towns don't have an NHL team or an OHL team. Like for me, I'm in Winnipeg, so there's the Winnipeg Jets, then there's the Manitoba Moose, and then there's the WHL team, and then there's Junior A. So the more tiers, of course, the higher tiers will draw the most fans and then leave less for the lower ones. But yeah, it's all hockey all the time, at least between my 2 ears. So no, that's awesome. And we can't wait for you to get over, if it's next year or beyond, to come over and see for yourself and really be immersed. Because you said last time you weren't really into hockey when you're here, so you wouldn't have picked up on whether it's a billboard downtown or when you walk by the bar, it's playing in all the TVs and that sort of thing. That's definitely a part of the culture here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I just had to double check something. Then, Brandon, I wanted to double check. Is your town practically Mystery Alaska? I was looking at the name of that film. Is that what it is like? Yeah.
I haven't seen that one, to be honest. So I don't know. It could be.
It's like a little ski town. So
yeah,
he's
a
in
ski
the
town.
mountains.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up right now. I feel like Mystery Alaska, you're probably looking more like Banff, more looking like Alberta. Those are some pretty big mountains. Pilsey's a little bit closer to the
It's more
East
like
Coast.
a hill town. Yeah, it's called Blue Mountain, but it's really Blue Hill.
Yeah. Right. If you haven't seen that film, boys, you need to watch it. It's an absolutely cracking film. It's a little local team manages to get a gig with NHL, come to town.
Nice.
The Rangers turned up and play a game. It's a great film.
Oh man, definitely putting that one on the list.
Yeah, 100%. That's on the list. I hope everyone watches that. And I hope everyone enjoyed our chat with Josh today. It was great having him on from across the pond and chatting about your origin love story for the Ottawa Senators, which is unique as far as I've heard, over 100 of these, Pillsy. So it's awesome how each individual story makes such a difference, and the connection just as strong to the team. Josh, look forward to seeing you on this side of the pod when the day comes, and keep cheering and representing overseas, man. We'll keep trying to make tea time just a little bit better for you as well. All the best, buddy. We'll do this again.
Cheers, boys. Have a good and go Sens, go. Aye.
Stick taps to Josh for joining us. Great conversation with him. Make sure you go give him a follow on Twitter. We appreciate all the SensCentral citizens, and we do have a running list. If you'd like to be added to it, just shoot us a DM on Instagram or Twitter, and we'll get back to you when it's time. But we are making it back into a weekly segment. We have a ton of fun having the listeners of the show, because we are the podcast for fans by fans of the Ottawa Senators. Pillsy, speaking of fans, they're going to be head on a swivel this weekend with all the action from the NHL and American Hockey League. Let's quickly touch on Belleville first, and then we'll get into the Senators and Flyers and Senators and Montreal Canadiens. Okay, so with the Belleville Sens, another huge weekend, right? They're down about 20 games remaining in the season. And when it's 3-3, how do you do it with two PTO goalies, as we're not sure if Matt Sogard is going to be back from his illness?
I don't know, Ross. They're going to have to be playing good defense. Like, this is going to have to be not quite on that level, but David Ayers type defense from the Belleville Senators, because these goalies are not used to playing in the AHL, and they're certainly not used to playing 3 games in a row. So first matchup, things get started off hot right away, Ross. It's Troy Mann's old team with the Hershey Bears, and last time they played the Bears, unfortunately, they weren't able to get the win for Troy. They lost 5-4. Money's going to be on the board for this one again, I'm sure, and they're going to want to get the victory here. I think it's going to be another run and gun type game with some inexperienced goalies here. So I'm looking at guys like Sokolov, Yarvinti, and Jake Lucchini to really run up the scoreboard to try to help those goalies out.
Yeah, we're excited to see it. And no Lassie Thompson again this weekend, so the D-Corps is going to have to do it by committee without their number 1 guy back there. So it's going to be a tough battle against the Hershey team that's always an experienced group. They always have these like 25, 26-year-old like career AHL guys, but who are unbelievable at producing at that level. Then they are home to the Hartford Wolfpack on Saturday. So back-to-back home games at CAA Arena before a quick trip to Syracuse on Sunday. And then they get a 2-day breather before going into Laval, which will be the most important game. Syracuse has really fallen off. So when it comes to standings, I don't think they really have to look too far down at what they're doing. I think that if they take care of their own here, they'll be fine. But as we're recording here, yesterday on Thursday, the Marlies got a win. So that really just keeps nipping at the heels here of Belleville. And there's going to be a lot of sliding. It's going to be like a golf leaderboard on day one where it's up and down. You never know what you're going to get here until they come down the stretch. So I'm really curious at how the Sens trade deadline will affect the roster down in Belleville, because it has to be priority number one for them to have a run. So we're going to be following along through that weekend, but also the Philadelphia Flyers coming to Ottawa tonight. And Claude Giroux, we don't know yet whether or not he's going to be in the lineup. We know that he played his 1,000th game, all with the Flyers in last night's game. So what's next for Claude Giroux? And is there anyone else on Philly who maybe you could see in a Senators jersey eventually?
I mean, Claude Giroux would be the number one guy. I think we've both been very clear on that. Someone that we looked at and chatted about today, Ross, was Travis Konechny. He can play either one of the wings. Maybe not the best couple seasons, last couple of years, but if you go back, he's a 20-goal scorer, and I think in the right situation that can happen again. A guy that I would love to target, but I don't think it's going to happen with no move clause and signing bonuses, is Cam Atkinson. He's leading their team in points, and I'll just skip ahead to he's going to be my locked on player, because sure, maybe he's a smaller guy, but when he's set up with the right line mates, he's an absolute sniper, and he's got one of those quick, speedy shots that goalies have a hard time picking up the release off of, and he's absolutely flourished in Philadelphia. He's got a couple years left on his contract, but he's already in his 30s, and it looks like the Flyers are looking to rebuild, so I could see them maybe saying, hey, we had a different idea for how we were going to use you. We thought we'd be in a playoff race, but we're changing directions. Giroux's getting shipped out for picks and prospects. We don't need a guy in his late 30s making like $5 million. Maybe we'd look at trading him too. But again, signing bonuses and no move clause, likely not a good sign heading to Ottawa.
And I think the Flyers, it's more of a retool rather than a rebuild. You see the money they threw at Ristolainen, and say what you want about the player itself, but Sean Couturier being on IR for most of the year, that's a huge slap in the face for their playoff chances right away. And then
same
Scott
with Ryan
Laughton,
Ellis too, was on IR.
Yeah, exactly. And Scott Laughton is day-to-day right now. I don't know if he's going to play tonight, but he would be my lookout player, because there's always fireworks between him and Brady. So I would be interested to see in that. But I'm going to be looking out for Rasmus Ristolainen, because you always hear everyone talk shit about him, and I'm just curious if he's actually that bad. I haven't watched enough of him, so I'm curious. I'll tell you right off the bat, number 70 for a defenseman is pretty tough to look at, but that's as my analytic.
Especially a veteran with term on his contract. Like, you think he get his first pick of numbers.
Yeah, no question there. Zach McEwen's a guy to watch for too. He fought Brady Tkachuk twice last year. Maybe even he fought someone this year with Philly. Was it
Might have been Sanford?
Sanford
or maybe
or
Formanton.
Yeah, interesting.
I know he did have a scrap, though. Yeah, that's ringing a bell. Yeah.
So when you're looking at a team who's set to rebuild, if you're going off of their Thursday night lines, Giroux, Brassard, Kevin Hayes, like those aren't like centermen that you rebuild with. Those are all guys in their mid to late 30s.
But Giroux's getting shipped out. Brassard probably not hanging around.
Right. So they're in the early stages then, is what you're saying, of a rebuild. I would love Travis Konechny on Ottawa, though. He's got a connection to the city.
I wanted them to draft him in his draft year. That's one I will not forgive the Sens for. That was a tough one.
Yeah, former Ottawa 67's captain, Travis Konechny, went, 2 picks after Ottawa took Colin White, 21st overall. I think he went 24th, so 3 picks later.
Just a couple picks later.
In that draft. That was an amazing draft, 2015, with Connor McDavid, obviously, at the top, and all the other guys below him, including Thomas Chabot, who it's super unfortunate won't be in the lineup, but it makes my locked on player pretty easy here. It's going to be Erik Branstrom again. What is he going to do with this extra opportunity? That's all everyone wanted at the start of the year, was more opportunity for Erik Branstrom. Well, I mean, this season's been the land of opportunity for him, and I know he's been thrown back down on that third pair role in recent time, but when Chabot missed time after the hit from Tom Wilson, he moved up. And I think that this stretch here, especially going to the end of the season, remember it happened to him last year, but it was only for 4 games that Chabot missed. But this time, it's going to be extended period here. And there was a reason why he wasn't on our trade board, Erik Branstrom. That would be the definition of selling low. That would be penny stocks. That's like selling all your stocks the day after COVID hit, when the market just crashed. Just don't do it. Hang tight. Let's see what he's got. He played almost 28 minutes last game. and I thought he looked okay. So let's see what some more ice time can do. And we know Philly's a physical team. We know Branstrom gets hit a lot. Let's see if he can evade some checks and create offensively. And I'm also excited to see him on the first power play unit as well.
Yeah, Ross, I like that pick a lot. And just an interesting note, Branstrom's season high for games played. He played 2 games, obviously, in 2018-19.
Right. Courtesy games.
31, 30, and this year he's at 31. So this will now mark his 32nd game, the most he's played in a season. So let's see him go out with a bang here. Like he's sitting on 5 assists in 31 games, and you mentioned it. He's had opportunities on the power play. Brandy moves pucks. Well, start moving pucks into the net. How about we see a power play goal from Brandy here, eh?
Whoa, are you guarantee?
I'm not guaranteeing it. I'm begging for it to happen because we need to see some sort of shots get through for him. He doesn't take a lot of shots either. He gets blocked in lanes. I find he's very obvious when he's trying to load up for a shot. It's easy for guys to get in the lanes and get a stick in the way. So let's see him get some space on the power play and score a goal here.
Okay, usually we don't preview a game that's a game away, but who are you going to be locked on to when you're in person at the Bell Center?
I'll transfer my locked on player from what I was going to pick for Philly. I'll transfer it over into Montreal. I'm going to be locked on to Alex Formenton because it seems like he's in another bit of a slump here, Ross. We haven't seen him get a breakaway chance in a couple games. The offense hasn't been clicking. Him and Timmy haven't looked that great together lately. So I want to see him really show Flash Formenton over in Quebec and really show his speed. I want to be wowed by him on the PK. So Alex Formenton's going to be my locked on player.
All right, buddy. Well, enjoy the weekend. Happy belated birthday once again. And I'm sure you'll have a great time. I saw Stewie's going to meet up with you. And Stewie, if you're listening,
oh yeah,
buddy, we're working on a date here
it's in the works
in late April. We'll get to you. We know we owe you a game here as you are our 1,000th subscriber on YouTube. And you know, we take care of our own, just like we've been taking care of people through our card giveaways that will continue. So follow along at SensCentral on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The giveaways, though, are on Twitter. So go there at SensCentral and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Really helps out Pillsy and I as well. Give it to him as a little birthday gift. You know, steal your parents' phone, steal your siblings' phone, and just hammer away a quick subscription. Perfect. For today, we say goodbye. Hope that the vibes improved. I wore a little palm tree shirt to try to get out of the rut we were in after those 2 games. It's hard, man. We haven't mentioned it till now in this episode, but 2 wins in their last 10 games. So let's hope that can turn it around. Oh, we did also mention yesterday, we teased that we would explain the process for North Dakota and college hockey in general. So this upcoming weekend, it's single elimination with the NCHC on the line. Friday, Western Michigan. And then I think they play the winner between Minnesota Duluth and St. Cloud State. I could be wrong about that, but it's the other matchup for all the marbles in the NCHC on Saturday. But even if North Dakota loses either Friday or Saturday and doesn't win the NCHC, they will still be in the NCAA tournament that begins next Friday, March 25th, or it's 24th, sorry. The Thursday it starts, the night that the Sens are in Winnipeg. But that starts then. If they lose that weekend, then they're done. So they could be done as soon as March 26th.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. And poor timing for Clevin and Sanderson to be out in single elimination days, eh?
Yeah, it really is. So we'll see. If they make it to Saturday, the championship game, then he will return for that, as it's just a 1-game suspension for him. Unfortunate, but we will be following along at SensCentral. Hope to catch you there. If not, we'll see you in the postcast tonight as well, following the Ottawa Senators and Philadelphia Flyers. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.